Sit back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device.
All right, buddy, welcome out to the Get On With It Sports Show. It is Wednesday, May the 31st, last day of May, 2023. Jersey Johnny coming at you. With me, as always, is none other than Mr. RadioPete and Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hi,
greetings.
Welcome
Greetings.
to the show.
Welcome to the home of the NBA Finals.
Home of the NBA Finals. Right here, you get all your information right here. You don't need to watch ESPN or...
Don't get me started on ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
Who does Kendrick Perkins have pictures of?
Exactly.
And yeah. I mean, I used to think Dan Orlovsky was bad, but holy smokes. Their NBA.
Dan Orlovsky was bad. We're not wrong about that.
No, they're not.
The worst guy doesn't mean the other guy was better.
Very well said. Yeah. I mean, ESPN is horrible. I stopped watching it except for part of the interruption, and those guys are probably going to retire or die at any moment. So, it's incredible. It's like we had a week and a half of downtime between the Nuggets closing out the Lakers in a sweep, mind you, and waiting for the Eastern Conference to figure itself out. And not one real talk about the Nuggets. But today, there's features and interviews on Jimmy Butler. It's just amazing how ESPN hates the Denver Nuggets. Just amazing.
No, I think you're wrong about that.
It's incredible. I am not wrong
I think you're wrong about that. It's not a question of hatred of the team. It's a question of, in their minds, relevance. The Nuggets are not playing there, and I disagree with this philosophy, but the Nuggets are not playing for that period of time. They are going to the finals, and when we see who they're going to play against, they will become instantly relevant like they are now. That's all it is. They don't hate them. They're just not. They
don't respect them.
Right or wrong. They're feeling that their audience is not going to be interested in hearing about the Nuggets.
Kendrick Perkins has something personal against Nikola Jokic. He does.
Well, that's possible.
And Stephen A. Smith can't utter anything positive. Even Shaq and Kenny on NBA don't want to talk about the Nuggets. The only one who's willing to step up and say anything positive about the number one seed in the West, who just swept the supposed best player in the history of basketball by many, is Charles Barkley. Mm-hmm. Come on. This is ridiculous. I just hope that they could pull this off and we could line Kendrick Perkins' fat black ass up on the 16th Street Mall and shove the championship trophy up his ass when we win. That's what I hope for.
I tend to agree with you. I have to agree with you because I certainly don't want Miami to win. And I was obviously wrong. I was half right.
I like Miami. I like Miami. How could you not like Miami?
Well, they beat the Knicks. I don't like Miami. So it's that's what that's where I go with that. I'll like Miami again next season, but I don't like them now in the playoffs.
Other than Jalen Brunson, there's nothing likable about the Knicks.
No, I agree. Other than the fact that they're the Knicks and they're the team. They're my team. Right.
And we've been waiting almost as long. At least the Knicks have been to the NBA Finals a few times and actually won a couple. The Nuggets haven't even sniffed the NBA Finals before. This should be news. This should be news. It should be. But it's news in Denver, is it not? Well, it's big news here, but that's like saying, it's. I don't think this has ever happened before in my, let's call it 40 plus years of being at least of age to watch news coverage of professional sports. I don't know of another team just that is going to a championship round that has just disappeared like this. I mean, look, Denver's not necessarily a small market. Salt Lake City is smaller, but we the Jazz never got this kind of disrespect, even in the Michael Jordan era. San Antonio is a much smaller market than this, and they never. I mean, obviously they had great teams. I'm not comparing this.
This is a different era in news. You can't compare.
It is.
the
It's
way sports news is
sensationalist.
covered.
So you want
It's
you want
sensationalist,
to
but it's also less. There's a lot less of it out there. There's a lot less content.
No,
Now,
there's more of it.
I agree. I agree what you say. I agree.
More of it by big corporations. There's less of it on a local level or on the semi-local to national level.
There's less journalism.
There's less, right? Okay, that's fair. But here's the thing: if and again, I disagree with the type of coverage, and I agree with everything you're saying. It's a crime that it's covered this way. But until the finals start, again, in the eyes of ESPN and the other big, Fox Sports and all that, it's a one-day story. Like, what are they going to say about the Nuggets day after day? And there are things to talk about. But if they do, they will get criticized by people in the nation as a whole who will say, what are you talking so much about the Nuggets for? They're not playing.
They've talked about the Lakers every day since they were swept.
For one reason.
Yeah, but okay, go ahead, John, because
for one reason.
The same thing.
Yeah, LeBron. That's it.
No, for two reasons. One, LeBron.
They're the Lakers.
The history.
They're the Lakers.
They're the Lakers, yeah. I agree with you. I agree with everything you're saying.
I agree.
You have to look at it from the standpoint of the networks. This is.
I am. But if you were equal in that, and said, okay, I'm not going to talk about this, but then don't fill all of this NBA talk with something else. There is so much to talk about. The fact that a sideline reporter that was covering the NBA Western Conference Finals did not know who a two-time MVP was is absolutely ridiculous.
That's pretty pathetic, actually.
It is. It tells you everything that is wrong with the NBA. And the fact that somebody like Doc Rivers is getting fired and they're interviewing some of these idiots who are out here trying to tell people that, Steph Curry is better than Wilt Chamberlain or something along those lines, and just not understanding the history of the game, that they're going to now be the new head coach of a team. It's just ridiculous. The voice of reason, okay, on morning talk shows, who is Mike Russo, is just lambasted for being an old man who's crazy. I just don't get it. This is how the pulse of American sports, really worldwide, starts and ends, is with these people. And I'm not asking them to say anything. I'm not asking them to root for them. I'm not asking them to do puff pieces for them. I'm not asking them to blow them up out of the water. But just say, hey, you know what? I was wrong. That guy that I said was not very good just averaged 10 more points a game in the postseason, is averaging a 30-point triple-double. And let's not downplay the competition, because before the Nuggets and Phoenix Suns started playing, Phoenix was the best team ever assembled, okay? And before the Lakers and the Nuggets played in the Western Conference Finals, you had LeBron and AD and two Hall of Famers, and they're right. I would say two of the top 10 players in the league, especially in the playoffs. So let's talk about it. There's so much more to talk about for the Heat, for the Celtics. Heck, there was a lot to talk about for the 76ers in that series. There was a lot to talk about with the Lakers beating Golden State. So instead of talking anything at all about the Nuggets today on the eve of the NBA Finals, we're going to talk about whether or not Draymond Green is going to. And you know what? Somebody finally admitted this today. Pardon the interruption. The Nuggets are boring. There's no controversy. There's nobody talking shit. There's no poster board. They're not punching each other in practice. There's nobody carrying a gun to the strip club. There's nothing saucy about this team.
They're not divisive.
But even the most boring team on the planet, and in my humble opinion, one of the best ever, the Spurs, okay, at least they got the coverage that they deserve by making it this far into the playoffs. It's just, if you're filling news stories with whether or not Draymond Green is going to be re-signed in your slot for the NBA on the NBA Today, and you're not talking about Michael Porter Jr. or Aaron Gordon or Jamal Murray or Michael Malone or anybody else, then you're not doing your job. You're not doing your job.
Agreed.
I agree. And I don't know why. I don't know why there's such a chip against this team. I really don't. And you think there isn't. Trust me, there is. There is. There's something there.
I think it's just the
There's
mindset of the media.
Well, then what they have to do is they got to go out there and they need to win. They need to win the championship, and then we'll see what gets talked about.
Look, and the one thing I am concerned about is the layoff. The Nuggets last played, I think
3 weeks ago.
I think the Republican primaries were going on.
April 3rd, I think.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think? I mean, what's your take on this series? Who do you think is?
I think I understand what you're saying, and while that's something to be concerned of, it's concerning, right? To be concerned about. I think that the Heat got the shit beat out of them by Boston. Especially in games 5, 6, and 4, 5, and 6, right? But I think they're going to be tired.
They're here.
No. They got there, but I think they're going to be tired, and I think I don't think Denver's going to be rusty. I think they're going to be rested. I think it's going to help. I do. That's my thought. That's my take.
The one thing I will say about the Heat is that they're a heck of a defensive team, and their length and their depth scares me a little bit. Is Bam Adebayo a better defensive player than Anthony Davis? Not necessarily, but
he's pretty damn
good. Their team defense is pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, Boston didn't really have a post player or a player like Jokic. And they really didn't necessarily have a player like Murray, because Murray's more of a point guard who can spot and shoot, whereas Tatum is more of a wing who's going to create his shots.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, man, I never count Jimmy Butler out. This guy is so impressive to me and what he does in the playoffs.
I don't count Jimmy Butler out, but
if I had to be honest, and I had to pick one person right now in the NBA to be on my team come playoff time, I'm not so sure it wouldn't be Jimmy Butler.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, the Nuggets are not the Celtics. All right?
No.
They're not. They're a better team than the Celtics.
Are they?
Listen, there's plenty of things you can say about the Miami Heat and their run. It's certainly been phenomenal, and they're number 8 and all that. I love, by the way, how the NHL and the NBA Finals come down to great 8s going against number 1s. Well, that to me is right.
Let me say something about both 8s. Both 8s, okay, were number 1 seeds a couple years ago. So
yeah, they were.
You know what I mean? This isn't the 99 Knicks with Chris Dudley starting at center and Latrell Sprewell. This is
right. During a lockout season.
There's no comparison.
Right.
Yeah,
no, but I'm just saying.
Even they won one game.
Yeah.
The fact that it's going on in both those leagues. But here's the thing, and this is one of the criticisms of the Heat. And I'm going to ask you guys a question and see if it sparks a discussion or if it's just a no, absolutely, or yes, absolutely. They talk about Miami. Okay, well, they played basically 2.5 games against the Bucks without,
Giannis,
a lot of people's MVP in the league, and they almost ran the table on the Celtics, but then they didn't. And yes, they won in the end, and everybody was exhausted and beat up, and everything that you just said about length and defense. And I think certainly against the Celtics, coaching was a big advantage for the Miami Heat, as it is probably against almost every team they play. I just think Spoelstra knows what to do, and certainly Missoula, hopefully he'll come into his own, but he's had some lapses as well. But anyway, see, you can say, well, yeah, they're an 8 and they're here, and you can't ever discount that. But they kind of had, some breaks along the way. They had some things that they had to go, that Denver didn't, go in their favor that Denver didn't necessarily have. So, but
yeah. And look, the Bucks.
You have to look at the evidence in front of you, right? You can't just go, well, yeah, but that doesn't mean they're going to lose now. Doesn't that mean they're better in a way? Because I don't know. I still like them, but I don't think they're going to win.
Right. Every team has shown some cracks. The Nuggets, I think their rockiest series was against Minnesota, and they took care of that pretty handily. But they've seemed to kind of escalate going up here. We all know that the Celtics are just one of those teams that are up and down, and I think Miami's a team that lives and dies by the three. 3-and-D has never been more true. So when shots are going down, they're okay. But the fact that they could win a Game 7 on the road with Jimmy Butler, shooting, good but not great, they scare me. Their basketball smarts scare me. I think overall they are a pretty cool cucumber in tough situations. Not saying the Nuggets aren't, but I'm not so sure this is going to be a short series. I think this is going to be a long series, I think Miami's a pretty tough opponent. Now, having said that, I thought the Lakers were going to be a tough opponent, and they were. And I thought Phoenix, and I actually thought Phoenix was better without Chris Paul. But, look, when you got Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and you're beating them and you go and then sweep LeBron and Anthony Davis, you can't sweep that under the rug. And as much as I'm incredibly cautious about giving any praise to the Nuggets because I don't want to jinx them, it was impressive. It was impressive, their composure on the road. And but they now have the pressure of having to come in, I think, and win the first two games. They have to hold home court. And if they could do that and possibly split one in Miami, then maybe, just maybe, we'll see the Nuggets hoist the trophy for the first time. But if they win, if they come out flat game one and Miami steals one, boy, the Nuggets have not had to deal with that yet this postseason, and how they respond to that is going to be interesting.
But I think they respond to everything. They just come out and do what they do. To me, they're the team that comes out and does what, like the NFL team that comes out and says, here's what we're going to do. Right. Stop us. Mm-hmm. They just, you know what I mean? They're so consistent. And I think that's one of the reasons they're laid back, because obviously there's plenty of evidence to show they've had success doing that. So they have a great deal of confidence in it.
Right.
And their depth is deeper than it's ever been. They don't have to have perfect games from three people. They can have good games from 3 out of 5 people. If KCP steps up, then they don't need Michael Porter to drop in 15 or 18. If Aaron Gordon plays the way he does, then they don't necessarily need Jeff Green to score 15. So they can take positional opportunities in each game and take advantage of them because of their depth.
And I'll also say about the Heat and Game 7 against the Celtics, again, after getting beat up. And I agree with John, what you said. I think that was a really painful, brutal, bruising series.
Hell yeah.
For those
physically and mentally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not Chris Child getting pinwheeled by PJ Brown, but okay.
No. But I will also say this. The Celtics in Game 7, and again, this is where I have to point the finger at the coaching staff a little bit. They shot 9 for 42 from 3-point range. That is 21%. And the thing about it is, okay, that happens. But they didn't have a plan B.
They didn't adjust.
If they did, they felt like they couldn't execute it. And I think the Celtics are kind of a flawed team. And I don't think the problem is Jason Tatum, who has had his ups and downs. I think that team has some things they have to do.
Yeah, there's a little bit of an identity crisis at times.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's some moves they have to make. And again, I'm not saying they should fire Joe Mazzulla. He deserves a little bit more of a chance, but he's fallen down a couple of times. And unless you're better than they are and you don't have those kind of problems, that could end up really hurting you. So
I think Spoelstra is a better coach.
Oh yeah, Spoelstra's definitely a better coach. But the Heat, they find the way to win. So I don't think it'll be a short series, but I think the Heat are up against a team that doesn't have those kind of flaws and doesn't fall apart. And like I said, they just do what they do. And now whether the Heat can figure out how to beat them, we'll see. We saw the Lakers have a minimal success at slowing Joker down a little bit. But even if you keep him from scoring a lot, he's still going to, let's score in low double digits, but then he's going to have 15 to 20 assists,
Let me address that last point, which again, ESPN was so happy to point out that for 3 minutes in game 2, Jokic only scored 6 points. He averaged a 30-point triple-double.
Oh, yeah.
So they didn't slow anybody down. He's putting up wilt numbers.
Right. For a short period of time, they found something that worked, and then it didn't work. And they couldn't keep it up. Look,
if anybody, I think Spoelstra's got the advantage on the coaching end just because of experience. I think Michael Mullen's a great coach. I think he's done a great job. Again, he's somebody who, this organization is stuck by him, which I think is great. And I think we're starting to finally reap the rewards with a team that, knock on wood, is fully assembled and healthy. And they've put it together by drafting these guys and picking up the pieces of some other veteran players along the way that they were able to assemble. Look, these guys don't have the bank account or they're assembling a team in a much different way.
Right.
The other part of this that scares me a little bit as a Nuggets fan is that Miami can win without being great. They can beat good teams without playing their A game. And that's what kind of scares me a little bit. If they can steal one in Denver, then they could kind of fight their way through the series like they did against the Celtics. I don't think they were ever really scared of blowing 4 in a row, but they certainly were not motivated enough to not let it go 7. They're a weird team. They're a weird team.
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be a good series. I don't think either team. I'm going to say 6. I'm going to say Nuggets in 6.
Yeah, I hope you're right. Well, I hope it's Nuggets in 4 just because I don't have a heart attack. But
I tend to agree with that.
I think it's going to go 6 or 7. I hesitantly think the Nuggets can win this, but this is a team that has never been to an NBA Finals. This is a team that has been in the league for 47 years and has never obviously won a championship. So they're not alone. They're not alone in that. But boy, what an amazing thing this should be. Yeah,
it's a new environment for those players. That's for sure.
It's a new environment, and for me, even though I didn't grow up here, I remember watching the back-to-back NBA games. So the early game would be the Celtics and the Knicks or the Pistons and the Hawks or whatever the case might be. And you always got to see the late game. It would always be a West Coast team. And a lot of times it was the Lakers, but it would be the Lakers against the Phoenix Suns with Walter Davis and Alvin Adams, or it'd be, the Suns versus the Nuggets with Dan Issel and Alex English and David Thompson. I mean, I don't think people realize how many great players have gone through here over the years, and they've been close. This is by far their best chance. And I think this is the best Nuggets team, by far. And we'll see. Look, they made it to the NBA, to the Western Conference Final against Kobe and Shaq. They went 6. They had out, they didn't win that one, but it's been a long time coming for this. We have not. This is a sports town, and there's been a lot of championships. Hell, even the Rockies have been to the World Series. Mm-hmm. So this is the last leg, and hopefully they can jump on board, because we've had a lot of hockey championships. We've had a number of Super Bowls and Super Bowl wins now as of late. So this is a big sports town, and I think even this town, to some degree, is finally getting on board with where the Nuggets. One thing I do want to say, it's a lot of people don't realize this, is that most people don't get to watch the Nuggets all year round because they've been in a contract dispute with Xfinity and a lot of the other cable networks. The only way you could get it if it was on Dish, or you were live streaming it through some Pakistani, third-party website or something like that. So it's for a lot of people. This even in Denver, this is their first sort of realization of what this team is, and I hope they could do it because I think it'd be a great story.
I agree.
And on top of that, throw in the fact that if you have the wherewithal, you can watch whatever your team is. If it's not the Denver, right? Like you don't have to watch the game of the week, or what I mean. Like so, you're never going to be exposed to them unless you want to be exposed to them, and that's it's hard to. I think that's one of the reasons, like the Rockies had sort of that. They had a lot of the country behind them, right? Like, nobody knows who the Nuggets are, and that's probably part of the.
Well, the Rockies were playing. The Rockies were playing the Red Sox, so it helped.
Well, yeah, that too. But I mean, the sports media should be introducing the country to the Nuggets. But I just look and I go, yeah, well, they'll get to see them in the finals, So anyway, let me ask you guys this question, real quick, because I heard a couple of guys arguing or discussing this. So they were talking about the NBA playoff format and the argument for and against changing it with respect to the Miami Heat. And one person was saying, yeah, they need to change the format because Miami should never even, they didn't even really belong in the playoffs based on what they did in the regular season, right? They were in the play-in. They lost the first play-in game. Like, how many chances, right, do you get into, this is the NBA, right? This isn't Little League or some pickleball tournament, with double elimination,
right.
Although it is in this case. And then the flip side of that argument was, well, I think they ought to leave it the same way because I think they've proven that they belong here because they're going to the damn finals. And so if they hadn't been allowed in the first place, then someone else who would be there. And, can you really, we wouldn't have seen Miami make this run. And again, the arguments about playing against the Bucks without Giannis and all that stuff.
Right.
So what are your thoughts?
Well, there's
not so much do they belong in the playoffs, but should they keep the format the way it is and even give this an opportunity to happen?
I don't love the play-in scenario.
I don't either.
I think if you're the eighth seed, you're the eighth seed. Having said that, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Miami would have been an eighth seed and the Lakers would have been an eighth seed. Correct? They were not lower than that, were they? I can't remember.
Yes, they were an eighth seed. Okay. They were the eighth seed.
So
they lost the 7-8 game and then won the game against the 9 and 10 winner.
Right.
So they would have been in the playoffs.
2 of the last 4 teams standing were 8 seeds. And I would say that the Lakers were more like the Atlanta Braves of a few years ago. Great team, good nucleus, a couple players fizzled out, a couple injuries. Let's build a bear at the halfway point and see if we can rebuild this thing. And it worked to some degree. Miami is a team that just sort of underperformed and got in. They knew what they had to do to get to that point, and then they started playing their best basketball in the playoffs, which happens a lot. It's happening right now in hockey. It obviously happens all the time in baseball. We've seen the kind of results of the wild card in baseball.
Yeah, wild card World Series winners.
Yeah. So it does make it more exciting, and it's not going to change because we know it's more revenue for everybody involved. So it's probably not going to change. I'd rather than just say, okay, why don't you just have 10 teams and add 1 round to the playoff? Or give, like they used to, I think, back in the day, give the number 1 or number 1 and 2 seed a bye and have a 5-game best of 5 or even best of 3 first round, series. I don't like the 1 game and you're out, or you have to win 2 games to get it, because that punishes the 8 seed who's there. Okay.
Right.
And most of the times that 8 seed does not get disrupted. Usually they make it in, at least in the short period of time that we have looking at this.
Yeah. Well, it's a small sample size, but
right. But you see these other teams and you realize, okay, now I was concerned about some of the lower seeds in the West this year because you had Golden State with some injuries during the year that had dropped them down, which I was much more scared of Golden State than I was of Memphis, especially what was going on with John Morant. The Lakers were a lower seed, and I think the Lakers were one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the West, and they've proven that was the case. So that got kind of jumbled around. In the East, I think you knew Miami would give some of these teams a run for their money. And you knew that the Knicks and the Hawks and some of those other teams that were in the middle were not that far below 2 and 3, or 3 and 4, or whatever the case might be.
Right, but it was still the Bucks and the Celtics and the Sixers. Miami was a fly that was eventually going to get swatted.
I don't think that it's unfair or advantaged Miami. I think it's unfair to teams like Miami and the Lakers who had to go through that additional round of playoff qualification, because that does hurt you a little bit. And look, again, it's also one of the reasons why maybe it makes teams a little better, because you're all of a sudden out of the gate, the first 2 games of the playoffs, you're in a do or die, win or lose, go home scenario. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times the teams that come out of that tend to go a little deeper into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. I for a minute I was going to say I like where you're going with that. Just have it be 10 teams. Let the first round, add a round. Let the first round be seeds 3 through 10, with 3 playing 10, 2 playing 3 playing 10, 4 playing 9, so forth and so on, and let it be best of 5, and then bring the 1 and 2 in. But again, it's not like football where they sit out for a week.
Right.
They could be sitting out for 2.5 weeks, even in a 5-game series.
Right.
So you can't do that.
Right, but
you're screwing over your first and second seed.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the team.
Right, but again, that's because
1998 Patrick Ewing would have loved that if he was a 1 or 2 seed.
Right.
It helps, and there is too much time in between games. So maybe that first round you don't have the luxury of you have a travel day, but maybe those first 2 games are played back to back.
That's the thing. It can take 2 weeks because of the scheduling,
right?
And the grab for money,
But they never.
When the NCAA tournament,
right? Exactly.
Used to take 2 weeks. Now it takes a month because they don't play Monday through Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
and the best of 5 used to be much more like baseball, where it was game, travel day, game, travel day if necessary, game. That's it. And
1 week.
Yeah.
1 week, and so 2-2-1 as opposed to the whatever 1-1
1-1.
So 1 week, 1 week, I would be for that, and then that gives then at least if you're the 2 seed or whatever, the 3 seed, and you have 1 bad game, you have a chance to redeem yourself. But yeah, it is one more round of playoffs.
I would also say if you are the 1 seed and you're getting that the bye. I don't know if a week is probably the most you would really want off, but you might want more than just 2 extra days,
Yeah.
Like it might be nice to have 3 or 4 days off as a reward for being the best team in the
other option.
Hold that thought. The other option
is to have the 8 or 9 play each other in a best of 3 series, with all 3 games being at the number 8 seed.
Kind of like baseball's doing now with the best of 3 with the
So at least it's not at least a team like that's got 27 wins is not getting into the playoffs.
Because keep in mind this, Pete, too, what you said, and I agree with you. Yeah, it's a reward. I get it or whatever. But think about this: if you're the first and second seed, you've had games off at the end of the season too, because you're the first and the second seed. Not everybody.
Kawhi would love it.
Yeah.
Think about all the oft-injured guys who would get to actually play in game 1 and 2.
Kawhi could have a surgery at the All-Star break and still make it for the 3rd round.
You know who it would not help, though?
Who?
Chris Paul.
Right.
Because he doesn't get hurt until the playoffs.
Until the playoffs.
Right.
That wouldn't matter then, yeah.
Well, yeah. So, I don't know. I would love to see it just go back to 8 teams, 1 through 8, just,
I understand like all these histrionics are.
It's ridiculous.
That's the better way to do it. I think just go back to 8 teams, done.
And look, I don't mind if that first round too, by the way, is best of 5. I think I don't like all the series being best of 7.
They're not going to take that away because it's money.
I know, but
they're not going to give the money back. They're not going to give the money back.
I mean, you guys know this, but to our listeners out there who are younger than dust like we are, this is what baseball used to be. It used to be the top 2 teams in the American League and the top 2 teams in the National League who won their divisions played each other in a best-of-5 pennant. And then there was the World Series. That was it.
That was it.
That was it.
Yep.
It was great.
And there was only 2 divisions, East and West. That was it. There was no Central. That was it.
No,
2 divisions.
Two divisions.
Before that, and you go back even further when all of us were even younger, there was no divisions. There was just the American League and the National League, and the top 2 teams.
Right.
And the top 2 teams played for the.
There's only
how many?
There's 24
how many teams in the NBA?
Right.
How many teams do we have in the NBA?
32.
32.
And how many in the NFL?
32.
So why doesn't the NBA just do what the NFL did and have a bunch of different divisions?
Because it's one game.
Right, well, but I'm saying then you take those divisions.
The NBA has 3 divisions. Each saying you can have 3 divisions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but you could just have 8 division winners, and then they all go to the playoffs.
Well, that's just it.
8. 2 teams.
You have 8. You have 8 4-team divisions. That's 32.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, it would be the same thing.
You win your division, and you go to the playoffs.
Well, you don't necessarily get ranked any higher anymore by winning your division, right? Am I wrong on this? So
then there have to be wild card teams. Then there's a 3-game wild card set, and then
there's no wild cards. Just 8 playoffs.
Yeah, trust me, the NFL is 1 year away from a punt, pass, and kick competition to get the team with the worst record into the playoffs.
All right, let me throw a couple quick things at you.
Yeah,
sure.
Carmelo Anthony retired now.
Mm-hmm.
Hall of Famer, yes or no?
Oh, without a doubt. No doubt. First ballot. Number 9 all-time scoring list. One of the best players in the history of the game.
Do the Knicks retire his number?
I don't know if the Knicks retire his number, but I think the Nuggets will retire his number.
Nuggets will retire his number.
And interestingly enough, he wore the same number as Jokic. So the Nuggets have actually talked about having, eventually at some point, I'm hoping Jokic gets his number retired. But you might see 2 15s hanging in the rafters.
Right, kind of like a Bill Dickey, Yogi Berra kind of thing.
I think the Knicks will retire his number, and here's why. It's been a long time since a Knicks number has been retired. And I do think that he's post Allen Houston. He's the only Knick whose number is even borderline.
There hasn't really been anybody.
There hasn't been anybody
who's been worthy of it.
There hasn't been anybody, and it's not going to be Julius Randle. So
probably not.
I think Carmelo's a divisive figure. I've always been a huge Carmelo fan. If you look at what his numbers, and if you really think back on what he was doing, and again, I think he suffered a little bit from playing in Denver in his first years because he was a machine as far as putting up points. He was Kevin Durant-esque in his efficiency in a lot of ways. He started out as much more of a low block, sort of low post, mid post jump shooter, baseline guy. Obviously developed his shot and slowly became more and more like the rest of the league of a long distance, mid range and 3-point shooter. But Carmelo's an interesting figure in that the game changed a lot during the course of his career. If you look at when he came in, he was playing next to Allen Iverson. And then at the end of his career, he's playing next to Russell Westbrook. So it's a very he had a long span in there. And I think if you look at what his accomplishments were, he's gonna be in that category of guys that it's always gonna be couldn't win a championship. Well, there's a lot of guys on the list that couldn't win a championship. And if Alex English is in the Hall of Fame, then Carmelo Anthony certainly should be. I think he's a top 5 Denver Nuggets player of all time. He's probably a top 6 or 7, and some would argue top 5 New York Knicks player of all time. So for people that are younger, they're gonna have Carmelo as the best small forward in the history of the Knicks. He's not, but they're gonna have him there. And if you look at his numbers alone, it would put him there.
Yeah.
So if there's a lot of people, if you're taking a New York Knicks starting 5 at that 3 position, it's Carmelo Anthony, and it's hard to argue against that. I think Bernard King was a much better player than Carmelo Anthony, and his career was cut shorter. I think that Bill Bradley had a bigger impact at that position, but it's hard to argue against Carmelo.
And listen, Carmelo didn't get a lot of help,
Well,
because
if Carmelo
team to get him.
Yeah.
Look, there were rumors about Carmelo going to another team, and I think the Knicks got a little antsy, and instead of potentially losing him to free agency, they made the deal for him, and it hurt them. So now that doesn't mean that they couldn't have rebuilt better after that, but that shouldn't be held, I don't think, against Carmelo.
I don't think it should be held against Carmelo.
I agree with
if Carmelo had the help that Bill Bradley had,
Yeah,
because I mean, Bill
so
Bradley
you can say the same thing about Bernard King. Bernard King had no fucking help. He was triple teamed, and he got to throw the ball to Ernie fucking Grunfeld in the corner. Okay, so I get it. Carmelo had a good team in Denver. Okay, Carmelo had played with Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson was still putting up 27 points a game when him and Melo were playing together. Okay, he had Marcus Camby. He had J.R. Smith, who was one of is I think third on all time on the Nuggets scoring list. Mm-hmm. He had Chauncey Billups the year they went to the Western Conference Final. He had Nene. He had some good players, not great but good. So he had help. They were a pretty deep team. When he went to the Knicks, not so much. And Amari Stoudemire was the worst free agent signing the Knicks have ever made, in my humble opinion. Horrible. Just horrible. It ruined the team.
Not immediately at first, but very shortly thereafterwards, yes.
Yeah. And those guys should never have played together.
They traded away the assets for Carmelo that made their team good.
Right. Look, a lot of time, Carmelo Anthony and Allen Iverson looked like what, in their prime, KD and Kevin Booker, or KD and Kyrie Irving can look like. They just weren't able to close the deal because they ran into A, a pretty deep Western Conference at the time, and B, Kobe and Shaq. And I'm sorry, but as good as all those guys are, they're not Kobe Bryant. And so that's the difference. As good as Karl Malone and Charles Barkley and Patrick Ewing were, they're not Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. They're not. They never were. So
right. I got you. Cool.
Okay. That was real quick.
Real quick.
So yes, I think he might have his number retired by both teams.
Yeah,
I think his number will definitely be retired. I think definitely by Denver. Yeah, there's a possibility next. I just don't see it, but maybe.
All right.
Wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't be upset, but there you go.
Knicks fans, do you want him? Unrestricted free agent Harrison Barnes.
It's like asking me if I want crumb cake. I mean,
right.
He's 31. He's making like $18 million a year. Not the missing piece to bring the Knicks to prominence.
This is such a Knicks fan question.
Yeah.
This is such a Knicks
question. Why I'm asking it.
Knicks fans, big free agent signing. Do you want Harrison Barnes?
Harrison Barnes.
Well, I mean, listen, he's not a bad player.
No.
You could say he's a little bit overpaid, but
he's diminished dramatically.
Yeah.
And he's had some injuries,
good
right?
Season.
Did he play this year?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Who? For who?
Sacramento.
Was he a starter?
Well, now I
think so.
On the Kings? I don't think so.
No?
I mean, I don't remember seeing him in the playoffs.
Well, he started. Maybe he wasn't a starter,
He made $18 million last year.
You're gonna say he made 18 starts.
He made $18 million for 18 starts.
Okay. $1 million a start. Not a bad deal.
All right. Well, while I look up his numbers, let me throw this at you. Bob Myers, longtime GM for the Warriors. He's out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 6 finals appearances, 4 championships. I think he was there 12 years. Is this the end, or the beginning of the end, or the continuation of the beginning of the end of the Golden State Warriors as we know it?
No. Because he's leaving because he does not want to have to be the guy who re-signed a 73-year-old Draymond Green to a tremendously large contract, which they're going to do.
Of course, they're going to do that.
And he did what he could. I think
this pen could, for a while anyway, be the GM of the Warriors. So.
Well, as long as you got Steph Curry and basketball is what basketball is now, you're going to have a shot. It's not the demise. Look, Curry, I think, had one of his best years. I think they need to pad up around him. I don't think Klay Thompson's a support, splash brother that he used to be. I think they've got some young players who kind of had maybe a little bit of a down year. I think they've got some young guys who they need to hold on to. And I'm not diminishing Draymond as totally useless. Don't get me wrong. But if he wants to stay there, then he's got to be realistic as to what he's worth.
Yep.
So that they can win another championship. If that's really what he wants to do. If he's just looking to get a big payout, then, that's unfortunate because I think they need some parts and pieces. Do they need a lot? No. But they need a center. I think they need a true center or at least a power forward who has some defensive presence. Draymond's a great off-ball defender. He's not the best on-ball defender. And he's not really a 4, and they have no 5. Looney, when he's in there, seems to not fit in very well. So yeah. I think they need another shooter. I think they need a wing. And I think they need some help up front, but they're not far off. I mean, if they picked up 1 or 2 players and all of a sudden we saw Golden State back in the Western Conference Finals next year, would you be surprised? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
Yeah. All right. Harrison Barnes played and started 82 games this season, averaged 32 minutes a game, 15 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 5 assists a game. Shot 47% from the field, 37% from 3-point range.
Mm-hmm.
Nice player, no question. Might be a nice compliment to Jalen Brunson. Would you rather have him doing that or Julius Randle? Being great one game and then angry and lousy the next.
Julius Randle. Yeah. I mean, I think I watched every one of the Sacramento Kings playoff games. And I forgot that he was there. And that's on me, I think, a little bit. But, I mean...
5 seasons in Sacramento, 15.4, 5 rebounds, and 4.4 assists a game.
Yeah. I mean, and what did he do in the playoffs?
So he's a solid player, but he's not the guy who's going to lead you.
Yeah.
But that's Brunson now, right? You need compliments to Brunson.
Yeah, the Knicks can get rid of everybody except Brunson. Yeah. And they got to bring in the right people. And we'll see what happens. But I mean, look, if Harrison Barnes is a cheap pickup, then sure. But
an $18 million a year cheap pickup.
Do the Knicks need another not so great, not a great 3-point shooting forward? I mean, they have a lot of those already.
I was going to say it's a right-handed RJ Barrett.
Yeah, well, or he's kind of a combo RJ Barrett, Obi Toppin. I mean, he's better than Toppin, without a doubt. Most people are. And I would say he's probably on the downside. At his height, he was probably as good as Barrett. I think Barrett has more upside. Out of all of those, I would like to see Barrett stay. But we'll see.
Okay. Nick Nurse is going to be good in Philly or no?
Be the same as everybody else.
Yeah, well, but you know what? With their injuries, they could use a nurse. So
very nice. Yeah.
See where I went there.
It's gonna be interesting, right?
They had a doc. Now they have a nurse.
Now they have a nurse. There you go. Even better.
Very good. Thank you. You got to the joke I was hoping. Yeah, it'd be interesting. Look, I was gonna say, he did win with Toronto, but Kawhi won with Toronto.
Right.
He's a good defensive coach. If the Sixers keep the beard and what and he's not going to make him play defense. No one can make him play defense unless he wants to. We know he's capable of it.
James Harden's defense in the playoffs was actually fantastic this year.
Yeah, no, he's capable.
He's just
of
hot
it,
and
but,
cold. He's hot and cold, and Embiid disappeared. I think they had a doc. Now they got a nurse. They did a psychiatrist there. That's a head case team. That's a head case team.
Yeah. I don't know if he's a good fit. I don't think so. We'll see.
All right.
We'll see.
I think he's a better fit than Budenholzer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, there you
That's
go.
enough NBA, isn't it?
That's enough. I think that's good. 50 minutes of NBA tonight. There
we
you
could
go.
just
broke our
we could
record.
just wrap up the show. Nobody gives a shit about the Daniel Jones anyway.
Who else talking about Daniel Jones?
I don't know.
You're the only one that's going to mention his name today.
There's going to be some talk. There's going to be some talk about the backup tight end of the Giants.
Not at all. No. We need to pay homage to a little hockey. Another 8-1, 8 versus 1.
Yep. Grade 8.
The grade 8. I mean, we don't have to get into too much detail here. We'll talk about it. It's going to be coming up on, wrapping it up. But it's going to be, it's usually a little bit after the NBA final or before the NBA finals. It's they're neck and neck this year. So
they've had a lot of long series in there. Yeah, almost every series goes 7, with the exception of the last round.
Exactly. So
there was some long playoff series in there.
This is true. But just on a global note, if you will, I personally think that Florida's destined to win. And I mean, I hope that doesn't. Carry the state wind along with Miami, obviously in basketball. But I do. I mean, I don't know. Your thoughts?
I think Florida wins this only because they're hot and I think they're. But look, these goaltenders are both neck and neck. You look at their save percentage; it's like 100th of a point apart. Right. I think this could go either way, but I just think Florida is on a heater. They won 11 out of 12 playoff games. 11 out of 12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing about Florida, obviously, I mean, they beat the Bruins, but there's more of a history of the best team in the league not winning than there. Although, again, we talked about how much better than the next best team the Bruins were, and then they beat the Maple Leafs. Yeah, but you know what? I don't like. It was great that Toronto made it out of the first round, but I don't know why you would think, oh, they've won a playoff series. Now they're gonna, go all the way, or they're gonna be significantly better. I mean,
they stumbled through the first round.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They were as good or close to as good a team during the regular season as they were any other year they made the playoffs. So just because they finally won a series, it's a great story, right? Who doesn't root for the Maple Leafs? But
and Vegas scored more points than the Knicks last night, or 2 nights ago.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like Florida, it's a great story, right? Because it's Florida and it's the Panthers and they're the 8th seed and all that.
But they were the number one. They were the president. Weren't they the President's Trophy winner 2 years ago?
Yeah. Both these teams were really good a few years ago, and Vegas was a number 1 this year. And they're, you know what I mean? They're a deserving number 1.
But I got to tell you,
this is a good team.
I got to tell you, when you think of hockey, doesn't Florida and Las Vegas first come to mind? I mean, just like it's just.
Well, sure, cold weather cities. That's what. But the other thing is, Vegas.
You just have a picture of Don Rickles in the middle of the ice for every game.
Vegas.
Wayne Newton.
However not too many seasons ago, well, in their first
year,
right? They get to the finals, right?
Yeah.
So
first year they went.
They've been to the finals before, right? The Kraken didn't go as far.
Well, we've talked about this, right? Because the expansion teams
they get loaded up with picks.
Right? No, I don't care about all that. All I'm saying is Vegas has been to the finals before, and they're not like a new team that maybe won a couple of playoff rounds, and then you know what I mean, and they're kind of starstruck.
Yeah,
they're about as veteran a playoff team, for being a 3 or 4 year old team or whatever as you could be. They've been knocking on the door before. Do you know why this will be fun to watch for me? Because I could care less who wins.
There you go.
Yeah,
I just think it's going to be good hockey. I think you could see some 7-6 games, and you got 2 of the hottest goaltenders in hockey. But both these teams know how to light it up. Vegas,
what do you think gets
Vegas
better
destroyed
ratings?
A good Dallas team.
Yeah, they did. What do you think gets better ratings?
What? Hockey or
the NBA finals or the NHL finals?
NBA.
Oh, the NBA.
Seems like it should be NBA, but I don't know.
It'll be the NBA, then it'll be,
pickleball.
Some sort of Taylor Swift live event. Then it'll be the season finale of Succession. Then it'll be Then it'll be hockey.
Hockey, yeah.
I mean, but the thing with both the NBA and the NHL is like, if I want to watch the game, it starts at 7. I better start looking for which channel it's on at 6:30 because it takes me a half an hour to find what's going on. Sometimes I got to download an app and pay for a subscription to some new network that I haven't even heard of.
Somebody was railing about something like 5 or 6 different services if you wanted to watch every single Yankee game this season.
Yeah,
it was
that's true.
Insane. Yeah,
absolutely.
Between Apple Plus and the Major League Baseball Network and ESPN and
Prime,
Hulu,
MSG, or whoever shows the
Jiggle.
Yeah, just TNT. So
it's
Fubo.
So there we go. So about 4.5 minutes for hockey.
There you go.
Well,
all right.
How many
basketball?
How many of the NBA Finals games will be on network television? Right.
There'll be a couple. I don't know if any. I don't think any really. I think they're all on.
Look, ESPN or TNT.
Yeah.
NHL is on TNT or TBS, or it looks like TR is True TV, right?
True. They're on True TV too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't game one for the NBA is on ABC.
Yeah. Network TV is going to have basketball. The other cable channels are. I mean, technically. In this day and age, that's network TV too, right? It really is. I mean, most
not
cable,
really.
cable. Well, it's not network in the true original sense of network, but in almost every cable company and every satellite company and everything has these channels.
Right. You don't have to download an app.
You don't have to download anything. Unless you have rabbit ears, you're getting these channels. So.
And even then, depending on where you are. You'll get them over the air. They still do broadcast TV over the air, just to a much lesser degree. So,
right.
It wasn't like maybe a third of or 40% of everybody still watches on rabbit ears because there's a larger contingency in the urban areas where you can still get the signal. That's much less now. Everybody's
can't afford cable anymore.
Well, that's what I mean. But everybody has been forced, or many people have been forced to find alternatives to an antenna.
Well, Fire Stick or. By the way, there's 3 games between Game 1 and Game 2. Game 1's on Thursday. Game 2 is on Sunday in Denver. Both games.
Yeah.
Sure. Of course.
Now I wonder, is that because the NHL is on?
Stretch it out.
I don't think they worry about that.
Not so much.
All right. Well, who do you guys have in this?
Florida.
I'm going to take Vegas.
I think it's a toss-up. I'm gonna go with Florida, but I would not be surprised if Vegas won this.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Vegas wins either. I mean, either of the teams are fine, but
I just think there's something.
I think Florida. I think
Florida
at 5. Florida and 5. I think.
No, it's going 7.
No,
I think it's a 7. I think Florida and 7. Although Vegas has home ice, right?
Home field.
Yeah.
They're going to play field hockey instead. They're changing it up.
They might if they don't keep the AC cranked to 58 degrees.
they're playing at Coors Field. They're not Coors Field. Why not?
Who gives a shit stadium? Man?
You get. Oh no, there you go. We'll talk about that.
Payday Loan Arena.
Exactly.
All right. On to the next one.
On to the next. All right. Hey, I just wanted to really quick mention. Well, actually, let's just do one thing in football first. Aaron Rodgers. There's nothing going on. We'll talk more about football, obviously, in the coming weeks as we get closer to training camps opening up. It's status quo with pretty much everybody. There's no real big news, but I just wanted to mention one thing. Taylor Swift again continued her tour as she's doing this year, and this past Memorial Day weekend she was at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford. And of course, as Aaron Rodgers has been doing, he's attending everything. There's a viral video out there of him dancing at the concert. So I just apparently Aaron Rodgers is a Taylor Swift fan.
If you or Pete danced at a Taylor Swift concert, one of you would be arrested.
Probably. Although that sounds like a dare.
Well,
I think we both have to go now.
Pete. Hashtag.
I don't think. I got better. Get me a comp ticket, and then I'll consider it.
Oh no, I'm not paying for a ticket.
I'm not paying to go to a Taylor Swift concert.
Oh, they charge?
Yeah, right. There's
it's like
hardest ticket to get. Hardest ticket to get.
Saw a report on one news thing last week at MetLife. They were interviewing a family that went. It was a father, a son, and a daughter, which is shocking in and of itself, going to a Taylor Swift concert. But he said he paid a couple $100 per ticket. So he paid like $600, $700 for the 3 tickets. He was offered thousands and thousands of dollars for the 3 tickets. And he said, no, he's taking his kids.
Good for him.
So,
good for him.
Yes, there's 2 parts. There's 2 things in that, though. 1, good for him. Absolutely. 2, why is somebody wanting to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to go see Taylor Swift?
Because she's really popular. She's the most popular recording artist on the planet right now.
She is. It's insane. I'm like, look, kudos to her.
It's probably one of the most popular ever in history, right?
People said the same thing when people were paying hundreds and thousands of dollars to see Milli Vanilli. You know, our parents thought we were nuts for paying more than $25 to see Duran Duran. So yeah, it's ridiculous. The Jonas. I mean, there's a long history. Look at the Beatles. Do you know how much Beatles tickets for at Shea Stadium are going to if you adjusted for inflation?
Good.
Crazy, just crazy. So I mean, not comparing Taylor Swift to the Beatles, but
of course,
she probably put on a better show than they did. You couldn't hear them. You know, they played through.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Although, you know what? Depending on, where you were in the audience, if you were surrounded by enough young girls, you probably wouldn't really be able to hear.
Same thing now. Yeah, same thing now. I mean, it's just, she connects to a lot of people. I know 50-year-old women who are, singing her songs as they drive to their yoga class. So, look, she's a phenom. I don't get it, but who am I? Who cares? I mean, I listen to weird music that these bands played at 12 people at a dive bar. So good for her.
Yeah, that's always been like
she doesn't bother me as much as a lot of other people. So
yeah.
Well,
that's a debate that I've had with a lot of people. Is like, okay, if it's not your music, that's fine. If you say I don't like it, that's fine. But you can't really say it's not good if millions and millions of people like it. It's not to your taste, okay. You know what I mean? But you don't get to be the arbiter of what is quality based on your taste.
No, there's always been pop music that appeals to the masses, especially to young teenagers. And now that market is primarily teenage girls. And she, so this is something that a mom or a dad can bond with with their kids, because for the first time you got Gen X parents who listen to the same music as their kids. So one week they're taking them to go see, the Foo Fighters. And the next week, their kids are taking their parents to go see, Taylor Swift or whatever.
There
or
go.
John Mayer.
As far as Aaron Rodgers
goes.
Some
other. Aaron Rodgers puts on a way better show than Ed Sheeran.
I agree.
As far as Aaron Rodgers goes, the less I hear about Aaron, as a Jet fan, the less I hear about Aaron Rodgers until September or at least the middle of August, the better.
Right.
I like seeing him.
I don't want to hear it.
I worry about him. I like the Aaron Rodgers spottings because it means that he's not back in the darkness. So I like when I see him out and about. That's good. I'm a Jets fan now, so this is going to be their year. Aaron Rodgers is going to, I'm surprised he's not dating Taylor Swift.
On that note, just on a quick music note there, I saw a post. I just looked for it. I just try to look for it. I can't find it. There was a bunch of concerts. It was in LA maybe, or somewhere in California. And it was the Power Windows tour for Rush. And Rush had the Fabulous Thunderbirds opening up for them. Remember
Jimmy Bowen?
Okay.
I'd rather see Taylor Swift.
But I guess how much the tickets were, starting
$15,
$16.50,
yeah.
And that was in
that was in
1986. That was in the like June of July of 1986.
Yeah, that's also
1650.
Yeah.
Well. So, Harry, you and I sat front row center for Rush in 91, 92.
You don't really want to be too close to those guys. That era, their hair was pretty horrible. Lots of shoulder pads and mullets.
And it was, I think we paid maybe $100 a ticket.
I don't know.
100 and change a ticket. And that was, and it was front row center. You're not getting a better seat than that. So, But,
so Taylor Swift's with inflation is cheaper than Rush.
Yeah, right. Exactly. One other thing on football, really quick. I want your quick question for both of you. What should we call it? D-Hop. He's free agent now.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Where's he going?
I don't know. Is he still? I mean, where does he rank? Where do you put him? Top 25 still? Wide receivers top 40?
I put him in the top 30. I don't think he cracks the top 20, but he definitely is between 20 and 30. You know what?
Bring him to the Jets.
He's close.
To the Jets.
You know what? I have to. He makes the top 20. He cracks the top 20.
Yeah, I would say he's right around the top 20.
Yeah, he cracks the top 20.
Definitely top 25. Yeah, put him on the Jets.
But he put out his feelers out there. He has, yes, it would make sense for the Giants and or the Jets. More sense for the Giants because they don't really have a true number one.
Anybody, yeah.
Right. But he put out his feelers that the word on the street, if you will, is that he only wants to go to one of two teams. Let's see if either of you can guess who those two teams
are. The Raiders or the Cowboys?
Nope, neither.
The Patriots.
Nope.
Or the Dolphins.
Nope. You're getting closer though, Pete.
Geographically or alphabetically?
Geographically and conference-wise.
So,
well, one's staring you in the face.
Oh, the Bills?
The Bills. And
or
the other
Bucks?
Maybe. Well, no, the other one is
Eagles.
Just the other one is just a factor. Eagles are the closest because they played them in the last game.
Oh,
Chiefs.
Yeah.
Bills are the Chiefs. That's where he wants to go. So anyway.
Well, yeah, I would love to go play for the Bills or the Chiefs too.
All right. Let's all go play for the Bills or the Chiefs. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I could be in for 3 plays a game.
There you go.
Is he going to turn into? Is he going to turn into the next guy who has a meltdown and takes his clothes off on the field? I hope so.
That would be. Hey, we need more fodder for some material here.
Well, that's why I want him on the Jets. I want as many distractions away from Aaron Rodgers as possible. Give me a bunch of knuckleheads who do stupid things so that no one's talking about.
That's why it would have been great if they got OBJ. Right? That would have been perfect. So
Hopkins is better than OBJ.
No, I'm just saying for distraction.
Yeah, but he's like always. Like I don't want some like OBJ's always pissing people off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, D-Hop's just going to be a distraction and not piss people off. So
yeah, I want a guy who's a goofball and people.
I mean, the Bills.
What is up?
That would be deadly on the Bills. Imagine that in a 3 wide receivers, setup. That'd be pretty. Yeah. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe he'll spartan up and go to Cincinnati.
There you go.
He'll probably wind up on the Chiefs.
He'll probably wind up on the Chiefs. So
yeah, anyway. That's the destination.
Yeah. All right, and. Baseball, I just wanted to bring up. I mentioned it to you before. Harry, what do you think about Aaron Boone really channeling his inner Billy Martin? What do you think?
Is he, though? He doesn't do it as well.
He doesn't do it as well.
He's nowhere close to Earl Weaver. Look, I think he's got some legitimate gripes. I think baseball is just the umpires are just stepping into the game way too fucking much these days.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we finally figured out how to deal with this whole pitch clock, and now it's like we got to find something wrong with everything. I don't look good for Boone. You know how I feel about Boone. I think Boone's fine. I don't think he's the best manager in baseball by far, and I think he's made some bad decisions over the years with the Yankees. I will say this about his decisions lately. Finally, the organization, and maybe it's just not Boone, maybe it is upstairs, they're willing to let some of their sacred cows out to pasture. And by shaking up the lineup, it's helped this Yankee team win some games. Even with Rizzo being out and now Harrison Bader being out, they're still dealing with a bunch of injuries, but the lineup is performing better. And you don't have that bottom of the lineup glut that is just pitchers drool to get to 5 through 9 on the Yankees. So, good. If it riled his team up, then great. Get thrown out every other game. I don't care. I sort of like it in the fact that I think in these particular cases, I think he's got something legitimate to gripe about.
There you go. I agree.
Yeah, I'll just add, I think there's a lot of stuff that a lot of managers have to legitimately gripe about. And I think they all should be loudly and vehemently and getting thrown out.
Yeah.
Not at every chance they have, but when it's appropriate, I think because look,
Right.
and I don't think it's because they're going to shame the umpires into doing a better job. But if they're bringing enough attention to it and being vocal about it, then baseball at some point is going to get involved and put a muzzle on these umps.
You would hope, but I'm worried that Rob Manfred doesn't give a shit. But that's.
I think
that's
managers,
what I'm saying. They have if they make noise and people who we know are up in arms. But what do we? Yeah, that's the way it's always been, right? Umpires have always been assholes, and some are better than others. Yeah. If enough people get mad about it, then Manfred will have to care about it because it might affect the game, and that's the only thing that motivates him is negativity that might affect the game.
Fair enough.
Being big enough, and then they'll get involved, and then
baseball is better when managers are getting thrown at about a 60% Rasheed Wallace rate. Yeah, that's when it's pretty good.
Yeah, and listen, there's other little things they can do, like next spring. Why not have a couple of spring training games where you're just using what is it called, spot track or whatever?
Right.
Just use the machine and see how it calls the game.
It's not so much balls. It's not so much balls and strikes of the issue. It's all of these other things that they're stepping in and inserting themselves into that they don't need to. That's what bugs me.
No, right. I agree, but I'm saying
I like the factor that the umpires are calling balls and strikes. I don't want robots to be doing it because I do think if they're consistent, then there's a history of that in baseball. If the umpire is calling it consistently, you knew that this guy had a lower strike zone back in the day than this guy did. We used to have different strike zones in the American League and National League. I was all for that. I thought that made the game interesting. Now, it's like I feel as if so much is being taken away from them that they're trying to insert themselves in other areas that they shouldn't. So give them a little bit of control back. Cut down on all these reviews that we have every 35 seconds and let them play. Let them play.
I would agree with that, except I think there's been enough evidence that they blow it far too often. I agree. And as far as the spot track, I don't mean to replace umpires calling balls and strikes. And I agree with you. Right. Guys have different strike zones and the players know that.
But they don't anymore.
You can send a message by having a game without an umpire calling balls and strikes. You want to still have a guy down first base, a guy down third base, whatever. That's fine, right? You need that. But just to send a message, hey, we're going to check out this technology. And whether it's about the balls and strikes, it just sends a message that we have other ways of doing at least part of your jobs.
Right. I agree. All right. We have a Are They For Real? Is it time for Are They For Real?
Yes, we could do an Are They For Real?
All right.
I think would be really cool.
What is real?
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Pretty sure none of that's real.
You're not real.
For real, for real, for real. Yeah.
Are you for real? For real? For real? For real?
Are they for real?
What is real?
All right, so we're going to revisit our Are They For Real baseball edition because we had a good time with that. But there's a few things that are slightly different now, so we'll do this a couple times this season because, standings change and teams' fortunes change and all that. I think last time we said pretty much everyone but Boston in the AL East is for real. Yankees were slumping. They're better now. Baltimore is now 14 games over 500. That, I think, is all pretty much the same as it was. But I want to talk a little bit about Detroit.
Fair enough.
Who is now just a game and a half back of Minnesota. This is barring any results from...
Let me just put that in perspective. They would be 12 and a half. I'm sorry. They would be 14 and a half games out in the American League East.
Yeah, that's true. But my point is they're only 2 games under 500.
Yeah, that division is horrible.
Yeah, this is the White Sox are terrible. Everyone's pretty much terrible. But amongst those 5 horrible teams, Is Detroit coming on there for real or no?
Well, I mean, look, they're their only team with the winning record in their last 10 games in that division. So yeah, I mean, if they can stay at 6-4 or put together a couple, 7-3 streaks mixed in with a couple 5-5, yeah, they could win that division. Are they? They're closer to real than Kansas City or the White Sox. I don't think they're better than Cleveland. And at the end of the day, I don't think they're better than Minnesota, but they've had a pretty good run here.
Mm-hmm. I think I concur with him, but yeah, if they can keep that pace and put that together, that they're for real. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think they'll have their dips, they'll have a couple of peaks here and there, but they're not better than the Twins, and they're not better than the Guardians. I think the Twins win that division. Guardians could, but I think the Twins win it. And hey, you know what? The Twins could only win it by 3 games above the Tigers, but they'll also, but the Tigers could be one game below 500, and the Twins are 2 games over 500. Right?
Let me put their recent stretch in perspective. Okay, they lost 2 out of 3 to Texas. Okay, they beat up on Chicago 3 out of 4. They beat Kansas City 2 out of 3. They actually lost 2 out of 3 to the Nationals, and they split with Pittsburgh. Before that, they hadn't won a series in quite some time, and they kind of beat up on the Mets, going way back to the beginning of the month. I think they sweep the Mets. I think they won 3 and 1 was postponed or something. I don't know. So they're winning against the teams that they should win against, or at least compete against. Right. As their season comes up here, they get to play a bunch of games against Kansas City and Colorado and Oakland. Detroit could stick around. They could stick around and challenge for that top spot. I agree with John though. I think Minnesota is the best team in that division.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't think Detroit can sustain. I mean, they're 7 games under 500 against teams over 500.
Right.
So, yeah, it benefits them being in a shitty division.
But they don't have a tough schedule, is what I'm saying. Because they get to play a lot of teams in that division, and they get to play Oakland and whoever else I just mentioned, the Rockies. They got a chance. They got a chance to stick around for a little bit.
There you go.
Yep. All right. Did we say Texas was for real last time?
I think Texas is for real.
I think we did.
15 games over 500 now, and a couple games ahead of Houston and all that jazz. And we talked about the moves they made 2 seasons ago in the offseason, how it didn't quite pan out last year, and then they went out and made a bunch of other moves.
Yeah.
And one day Jacob deGrom's going to pitch again. Actually,
exactly.
Hey, look, they're plus one. They're plus 131. The Texas and Houston are 7-3 in their last 10, and the Angels and the Mariners are 6-4 in their last 10. That's a hot division. Yeah. I mean, Oakland aside, that's a pretty good division. At the end of the day, Texas could beat out Houston. I think the Astros will win. I think the Rangers, they'll get a wild card spot.
Yeah, I think so. I think that'd be great too. Love to see it. Love to see some new blood.
A little bit.
Well, you saw it last year. They started putting the pieces together, and this year they added even more to it. So the ownership of the Rangers is putting in the money to get them some players.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, they just keep adding until they get the mix right. And right now
they seem to have gotten the mix a little better than San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay. Miami remains a game over 500. The Mets are certainly starting to come back. The Mets we know are for real. Is Miami just hanging around a little bit longer?
They're not a bad team.
Yeah, I mean they're half a game behind in front of the Mets. So they're not a bad team, but the Mets are Miami's playing right about where they should be playing. The Mets are playing way under where they should be playing. So
right.
Here's what's saving Miami is they're playing 500 ball on the road. That's what's saving Miami right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Pittsburgh, we did definitely say is for real last time. Mm-hmm. And again, they're only a game over 500. But
it's a 500 division. Yeah, I mean,
it's a 500 division.
Anybody could win that division, really. I mean, anybody could.
Yeah. Well, not the Cubs.
Well, they're only 4.5 games out. They've got the same winning percentage as the Cardinals.
They're the Cubs.
Right.
And last but not least, Arizona.
Arizona looks good.
Yeah, I think they're going to continue.
Arizona's hanging around.
But they're hanging. They're
not.
It's not like they're hanging around like Detroit's hanging around. Or even if for that matter, like Pittsburgh's hanging around. They're 32-23. They're
yeah, that's what I mean.
7-3 in their last 10. They're playing good ball. Yeah.
Dodgers have gotten their shit together and they're looking like the Dodgers again. And San Diego is starting. I guess you could say they're starting to look like San Diego, given their recent history. They're just underachieving, but yeah, Arizona seems like they are for real.
There you go.
They seem to beat the teams they're supposed to beat.
Right.
They win series. They go in and they win a series. They'll win 2 out of 3. They'll win. Sometimes they'll win 3 out of 4. They're beating the teams that they should beat. That bodes well in baseball, especially in that division when they get. There's a couple teams that they get to beat up on a little bit.
Agreed. So, all right. Well, there you go.
That's it.
I got one for you guys.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But it's the opposite. Okay. Are they for real, but in a not so good way?
Are they as bad as they seem?
Right. The Oakland A's. The Oakland A's right now are 12-46.
They are as bad as they seem.
Hold on. They are on pace. My question's coming. They are on pace to lose more than 120 games. Okay. That is the benchmark. All right, 120 games. Set by who? Who, Pete?
That'd be the Mets.
That would be the 1962 lovable losers, right?
Yeah.
But there's something endearing about that, right? They were the lovable losers, right? The A's just suck, right?
Yeah.
Are the A's going to set the record for most losses in a season this year?
Yes. They're horrific.
I hate to say it, but I think yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
and we've talked about them in the past couple of years, right? About how they're, they play some good baseball. They surprise you because they don't spend any money, right? Well, now it's even worse because they're leaving.
Right.
They have zero incentive to be good at all. I mean, probably you want to suck so that the city of Oakland and the surrounding communities are like,
doesn't try to keep
out
you
of here. You're
Get out.
terrible.
Go. Right,
Good riddance. Enjoy the desert and good luck breathing.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think they are for really bad.
I agree. I think they're going to set the record for most losses. Like they're going to lose over 120 games. So maybe even 130 to lose. Who knows?
And listen, that'll be another milestone or thing in sports that we get to witness. We happen to be alive at the right time. We get to see the worst team in the history of baseball in the modern era, if that happens.
Yep.
And other things, coming back.
It's still really sad to see professional sports leaving Oakland. It is for me.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the Oakland A's. The Raiders are gone. The Golden State Warriors are no longer really an Oakland team. Not that they ever really were, but they were closer to it than not. It's just there's no sports left in Oakland. They'll probably get a hockey team.
Yeah, exactly.
Or listen, the Raiders might move back in another 4 or 5 years or something.
Right, they'll get pissed off in Vegas and.
If they go back, they're the only game in town, right?
Right.
There's something. Well, that could be the problem. There's something about Vegas that is appealing to today's young athlete. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is, but it is. It's much more appealing than Oakland.
Apparently, it's appealing to today's older athlete too, because Tom Brady now is becoming a part owner of Raiders.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he sees that there's money there. Yeah. I mean, look, when
don't sleep on him. Don't sleep on him suiting up for the team that he now owns.
Yeah. When Joe Rudy was playing for the championship A's teams, I think he was making $30,000 a year. So it wasn't like Oakland was perfect for them, because they could afford to buy a house there.
Right.
But I mean, it's Oakland's changed, and the relationship that the fans have with the sports teams there has changed. And it's sad. It's just one of those things. I think it's done. and this is the last nail in the coffin. And it's unfortunate because they're going out on such a sad state. Sad. I almost want to go to an Oakland A's game just before they
just go get out to Oakland and go see one just before they're out.
Think I could get a ticket?
I think the three of us could get VIP seating if we went out.
I bet if we went, we could.
We should do a broadcast from there. Wonder if we could get some of the players to come on the podcast.
If we go to the stadium, I think not only could we get tickets, but they would probably give us if not money, they would give us like a coupon voucher for a free beer or something.
Do they have food there?
Go here, take these tickets.
They still have concessions.
Here's $10 off French fries,
or at least some tokens for the BART.
There you go.
Just please go inside. Here's some incentive to go.
Exactly. We should talk about that. So,
hey, set it up. Don't we have somebody doing marketing and travel plans for us?
Jimmy, get on that.
Jimmy, get on that. See what you can get. September would be good. Yeah, towards the end of the season.
Exactly. Wrap it up there. All right. Well, on that note, we have anything else? I think we're good.
No, that's it.
All right. On that note, we'll wrap it
for me anyway.
We will wrap the show up for today. We want to thank everybody for watching, and for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.getonwithitpodcast.com. That's getonwithitpodcast.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for the Get On With It podcast. And, of course, all of our shows are available on YouTube as well on the Logger Room channel. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And for those of you who just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcast, and iHeartRadio as well. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of your week. Have a wonderful weekend. Check out, obviously, the finals in the NBA and the Stanley Cup finals in the NHL starting up this week. And we will talk to you next week, folks. Take care. Cheers.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.